Have you guys noticed how old all the people on the top of the music charts are? If you go to the top Spotify monthly listeners chart and you start looking down, let's say that take the top 25 and you look at the ages of the people. If you start with Bruno Mars, who has 130 million monthly listeners, he's 39 years old. Let me go down the list. The Weeknd, 35 years old. Billie Eilish, 23. She's young. Kendrick Lamar, 37. Coldplay, Chris Martin at least, is 48. Rihanna is 37. Ed Sheeran's 34. Ariana Grande is 31. Taylor Swift, 35. SZA, 35. Bad Bunny, 31. Drake, 38. Justin Bieber, 31. Dua Lipa, 29. Eminem, 52. Post Malone, 29. Sabrina Carpenter, 25. Travis Scott, 33. Maroon 5's Adam Levine is 46. Shakira is 48. J Balvin is 39. Katy Perry is 40. Lana Del Rey is 39. Adele is 36. And rounding out the list at number 25 is Beyonce, who's 43 years old. Now, if you average all those together, it comes out to be 36 and a half years old. That's the average age of the people in the top 25 on Spotify's monthly listener chart. That's really old. So out of that list, there are only 4 people that are in their 20s. Billie Eilish, who's 23, Sabrina Carpenter, who's 25, but Post Malone and Dua Lipa are 29 and almost 30. They're both going to be 30 this year. As a point of comparison, in 1965, the Beatles released their 6th record, Rubber Soul. On that record, John Lennon was 25 and so was Ringo. McCartney was only 23 and George Harrison was an astounding 22 years old. 6 records into their career. And if you think I'm just cherry picking this, there's tons of examples of this. When the Rolling Stones released Exile on Main Street in 1972, that was their 10th album, and Mick and Keith were both 29. Another great example is Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder was 26 when he released his 8th studio record, Songs in the Key of Life, in 1976. Or if you go to the 80s, U2 released their 5th studio record in 1987, The Joshua Tree. And on that record, Bono and Adam Clayton were 27, and Edge and Larry Mullen Jr. were 26. They're far into their careers. And there's many more examples of this. If you look at today's charts, you're going to notice something very different. Bruno Mars is 39, but only released 3 albums. The Weeknd and Kendrick Lamar are 35 and 37, and they've each only released 6 albums. And Ed Sheeran, who's 34, has released 7. So far fewer records and are much older. So why is this? So I came across this thing called the Matthew Principle or Matthew Effect, which refers to the concept of cumulative advantage, where those who already possess an advantage like wealth, status, or in this case, Spotify listeners, tend to accumulate more, while those who start with less tend to lose what they have. In economics, individuals with more wealth have more opportunities to invest in things and generate even more wealth. I think the way that it relates to this list is that people that were already famous in the early 2000s to the mid 2000s, like Taylor Swift, like Coldplay, like Maroon 5, they had a distinct advantage on this list because they were famous when streaming really blew up, which made it easier for them to be higher on the list. They had more songs to pick from. People were going back and listening to their catalog songs and their new songs that they're releasing. And that's one of the reasons that they're so big on this list. Bruno Mars may only have 3 records out, but he's been on so many people's songs. He's all over the place. The same thing goes on social media. Let's say YouTube. I have almost 5 million subscribers, and I will get there if you hit subscribe right now. Quick plug. It's far easier for me to get subscribers because I have all this social proof. People look at my channel and they see, oh, this video has got 1 million, this video has 5 million, this video has 20 million. And so you tend to click on those videos and subscribe to those channels that have a ton of social proof than you will if you come across a channel that only has 20 followers. Think about your own viewing habits. If you're going to try to fix your hot water heater, are you going to look at a video of someone that's got 5,000 views or 5 million views? You're going to go with the one that has the social proof on it, especially with something like that. That pretty much goes for anything. If you're trying to learn anything, YouTube will typically serve up the videos that have the most views or that have the most views and the highest rating. And this Matthew principle goes for things like social media platforms. Like, why did Facebook outlast things like MySpace or any of its other competitors? Well, because people would spend X amount of time posting things on there. And then once you have all this history, people don't want to start from scratch. It's hard. People are like, Rick, why don't you move to this platform, move to that platform? Maybe because I have 2,000 videos on YouTube and I don't want to start from scratch. And because YouTube is the best platform to be on, because it's got the best search engine. People, when they're searching things, they go to YouTube. They don't go to other places. And when you look on Google, it brings up YouTube videos. It doesn't bring up Facebook videos. So if you want to learn to do something, you search it on Google and you find the top YouTube videos to learn how to do anything. And those are the ones that you go with. That's your competitive advantage over other things, which is why these people on Spotify keep getting bigger and why they're older. It's this exact same thing. They have this competitive advantage by being around longer. So I'm not going to tell you that it's impossible to be successful on this platform, even if you start from scratch today, because it's not. You can start from scratch and grow a huge channel right now. I have friends that have done it in the past few years. But it is difficult. And when you're competing against people, let's say somebody like me that's 63 years old, and you're 30 years old, not only is my competitive advantage the length of time I've been on YouTube, but it's also my age. Being 63 does give me a competitive advantage. Why is that? When I'm talking about music from the 60s, I was alive in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. So I was able to live and hear the Beatles when they were on the radio in the 60s and Jimi Hendrix and Black Sabbath. I was able to hear all those artists, that Led Zeppelin, all these artists that were big in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. I lived through the grunge era. I learned about jazz music when I was in college in the 1980s, and I taught jazz studies. I taught jazz history. I played classical music in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I studied it. And I have this incredible lived experience of playing all these different genres of music, not only on one instrument, but on multiple instruments. So it's far easier for me to talk about Jimi Hendrix because I remember when Jimi Hendrix was putting out records. And I remember when the Stones were putting out records and the Beatles. Well, the Stones are still putting out records. And all these artists that are not even with us anymore. So it's very difficult for a young person to come in and start a channel and compete with someone that's old like me that has all this experience. But it's not impossible. You can have a successful channel. But the things you need to do are actually the things that I did. You need to outwork other people. You really need to just dedicate yourself to this and put in the work that it takes. And it takes a lot of work to be successful at anything. The next thing is that you have to keep learning. If I didn't keep learning throughout my channel, I would not be able to be doing this 9 years into it. I didn't know I was going to be making videos on AI. I didn't know I was going to be making videos on a lot of the topics that I talk about now because they didn't exist before. And the last thing is, somebody's got to be successful. So why can't it be you? That's the thing that I always thought when I started my channel. It's like, hey, somebody's got to be successful. Why can't it be me? Love to know your thoughts. Hit subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.